The WNBA stands on the edge of collapse. A league that fought its way from obscurity to relevance now faces a threat not from its critics, not from poor ratings, not even from financial strain, but from within, from its own players. The very athletes who carried women's basketball into the mainstream are now holding its future hostage. It took nearly 3 decades for the WNBA to build an audience, to gain the respect of sports fans who once dismissed it as an afterthought. But now, just 2 seasons removed from its most successful run in history, the league teeters on the brink of disaster. Whispers of a player-led lockout have grown into thunder, shaking the foundation of everything the league has worked for. And in the shadows, one man, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, is preparing to intervene before the whole thing comes crashing down. The crisis didn't appear overnight. It began quietly, with frustration simmering behind closed doors. For years, players have grumbled about the pay gap between themselves and their NBA counterparts. They've demanded a bigger slice of the growing revenue pie, especially as TV ratings and ticket sales began to soar. For the first time, the WNBA had something powerful: momentum. The emergence of Caitlin Clark, the electrifying rise of A'ja Wilson, and the undeniable charisma of a new generation of stars had turned the WNBA into a genuine spectacle. People were tuning in, buying jerseys, and filling arenas that once sat half empty. For a brief moment, women's basketball wasn't fighting for recognition. It had earned it. But that fragile success came with expectations. Players wanted to see that success reflected in their contracts, in their travel conditions, in how they were treated by the league. They wanted respect, and they wanted pay to match their worth. When negotiations for a new collective bargaining agreement began, optimism filled the air. But optimism soon turned to outrage as talks dragged on. It became clear that the league wasn't willing to meet the players' demands. They wanted a 50-50 revenue split like the NBA, but the structure of the WNBA made that nearly impossible. The NBA owns half of the league, and franchise owners hold the rest. For players to get half of all league revenue, owners would have to surrender their entire share. The math simply didn't work. Yet, from the players' perspective, it wasn't about math anymore, it was about trust. They believed the league was hiding real numbers, masking profits behind vague reports and carefully crafted statements. They wanted transparency. They wanted proof. Without it, they were done believing. The murmurs of discontent became louder, and before long, the word lockout began to circulate through locker rooms, press conferences, and social media posts. What started as frustration evolved into a movement, and the movement found its leaders in 2 of the league's biggest stars, Breanna Stewart and Napheesa Collier, to the public. Stewart and Collier were icons, champions, Olympians, and role models. But behind the scenes, they were masterminds of something even bigger. Together, they had founded Unrivaled, a new player-led basketball league that promised freedom, fairness, and a fresh start for women's sports. On paper, it sounded revolutionary. Shorter games, faster pace, player ownership, and equitable pay. But as rumors of a lockout grew louder, Unrivaled began to look less like an alternative and more like a rival. If the WNBA's 2026 season collapsed, Unrivaled would stand as the only professional women's basketball stage left in America. That meant one thing: control. Control of the players, the sponsors, and the narrative. For Stewart and Collier, that opportunity was too powerful to ignore. And for the WNBA, it was existential. Because if the 2026 season disappears, so does everything the league spent 27 years building. Behind the headlines, Adam Silver was watching closely. The NBA commissioner has always been the quiet guardian of the WNBA, not directly in charge, always near enough to intervene when things got messy. He knows the stakes better than anyone. The WNBA isn't just a sports league. It's a symbol of progress, of equality, of the NBA's commitment to something bigger than basketball. If it falls apart, it doesn't just hurt the women's game, it stains the entire NBA brand. Billions of dollars in sponsorships, partnerships, and goodwill are tied to the WNBA's success. If the league collapses, the narrative of progress collapses with it. Silver can't let that happen. But saving the WNBA means taking control, and that's something. Commissioner Cathy Engelbert may not be willing to give up. Cathy Engelbert was supposed to be the WNBA's savior. A seasoned executive with decades in finance, she brought structure and professionalism to a league desperate for both. Under her leadership, sponsorships skyrocketed. Ratings reached historic highs, and expansion teams lined up to join the league. On paper, she was doing everything right. But to the players, Engelbert represented everything wrong. They saw a corporate face who talked about financial sustainability while players still flew commercial, earned less than overseas benchwarmers, and watched executives pocket bonuses from growing revenues. She called it long-term growth. They called it control. And as the gap between leadership and athletes widened, the cracks began to show. Behind closed doors, negotiations turned bitter. Players accused Engelbert of stonewalling, of hiding the books, of treating them like employees instead of partners. She insisted that the league wasn't yet profitable, that patience would pay off. But patience has an expiration date, and after 27 years, the players were done waiting. The emergence of Unrivaled gave them leverage. For the first time, they had an escape route, a way to play the game they loved without bowing to league politics. That threat turned negotiations into warfare. Owners feared a mass exodus. Sponsors whispered about contingency plans. And in the middle of it all, Adam Silver began to stir. Silver knows how to handle a crisis. When the NBA faced the Donald Sterling scandal, when COVID-19 shut down global sports, when the league's image was on the line, he stepped in, decisive, controlled, unflinching. He understands that perception drives power. And right now, the perception is chaos. He can't allow the NBA's sister league to implode while he watches from afar. So, insiders say he's preparing to act. Maybe he'll step in as an overseer, maybe as a fixer. Or maybe if things get bad enough as the new head of a restructured WNBA, because once Silver steps in, the power shifts. Cathy Engelbert's independence evaporates. The league becomes part of his empire. And women's basketball enters a new era. It's one where the line between equality and ownership blurs. But before Silver can make his move, one question hangs over the entire crisis. Will fans care if the WNBA disappears? Because here's the harsh truth. The league has no safety net. The NBA, NFL, MLB, they can survive strikes and lockouts. They're institutions built into the DNA of American sports culture. The WNBA is still climbing that hill. If the 2026 season vanishes, fans will move on. They'll turn their attention to college football, to baseball, to anything that's still running. Sports fans don't wait. They replace. Once habits are broken, they rarely return. And that's the danger. Not just losing a season, but losing the audience forever.